All right, I should have published this before, um, but I think that you're going to find that it's relevant today in what's happening with um, businesses that house anywhere between 250 and 1,000 personnel, and they're all in cubicles, and they're answering phone. They're buying and selling products over the phone, and they're making transfers from one nation to another. Um, and and some of these businesses have investments from other foreign investors around the world in the United States. Now, let me share with you the dream that I had about these office buildings that are employing masses of people and paying them between $12 and $16 an hour to work there. Now, in my dream, um, I was working at my old job, which was Serco, which I'm going to mention later. And just like any other day, I got up, I got in the car, I showed up, time clocked in, and I started doing my job. And then when it came time to quit, all of us that were ready to leave, it was about 3:15. We got up out of our chairs and we waited for the for the time to pass to 3:15, and we started moving towards the doors. However, we found these doors chained and locked. You know, keep in mind this is in my dream. Okay, this didn't actually happen, but it was in my dream. And so we're all wondering who locked all the doors. We looked everywhere, and we saw no door that was left unchained. They were all locked down. So we were all pretty much trapped there. And then there were staff members that were not making their presence known, and we all went back in, and we started asking our supervisors what was going on, and they had no idea either. And while we were inquiring about what was going on, because we had families to go to, some of us had shopping to do so we could feed our kids, some of us had bills to pay, and we didn't have access to our cell phones, and we didn't have external access to the internet to be able to do these things, and we couldn't call anybody on the telephone because that was barred from us. Additionally, those of us who had to store our cell phones in lockers, those storage areas were barred from us, and so we could no longer go in there and get our cell phones and make calls to anybody. And while we were in there trying to get the supervisors to call somebody, which made themselves unavailable, someone who was in the upper level administration unlocked one of the doors, and in came doctors and nurses. Okay, and we're all sitting here wondering what's going on, and we're starting to ask questions, and brought out a table of they brought out a table, and it had medicines, and I can only assume that they were either vaccinations or they were something else, but for the dream's purpose, we didn't know what these were. And most of us were refusing to take these, but we had no choice. We were stuck in the office building all together, and we were forced to get into a line to take this medication. Okay, and there were a few who rebelled, and they went to the doors and they started kicking on the doors, and they started to try to break the locks so that they could get themselves free. But they were taken over by security personnel, and the doctors and nurses came over and gave them something that would knock them out. And then they were locked in a room by themselves. And then they were not allowed a visitation from any of the other employees. And then what was playing? They had a couple of large screen TVs, because like in Serco, there were 5 or 6 large areas, and each one of these large areas were outfitted with a big screen TV. And what we saw were these fantasy type movies from the 50s and 60s. And we sat there watching movies while we were waiting our turn. Then the next thing you know, we're being handed what appeared to be hospital clothing. And then apparently there were cooks that were in a sectioned off area that were cooking, and they were bringing our food to the cafeteria, where we were then at that point to get in line to eat. In other words, we were trapped in there watching movies, forced to take a medication that we did not want. And if we rebelled, we were sedated and locked in isolation in other rooms. So we were imprisoned in these buildings. Now, the reason why I brought up this dream that I had, it was about 3 years ago, is because here in town we have something called Serco. And Serco has a partnership of 3 other companies. One is from Canada and one is from the United States, but they're all funded by a prince of the United Kingdom who was a part of a group called the 300. They're 300 billionaires, and they're all part of the global governing schematic. And basically what they're doing is they're telling Serco employees, irregardless of what partnership they're with, that they will be tested and they will wear masks, and in some cases they will be told to wear gloves. And if they refuse, they will be fired for the time being. Now, God only knows what happens if they're found positive. Now, I've already warned you that these test kits that are from the World Health Organization, and that's where these come from, these test kits from the World Health Organization are infected or poisoned. So however way they administer the test, these test packs have live DNA in them. And they are not compatible with the human body. So if you test and you're not positive, then the test pack itself is going to infect you with something. And you're going to be sick. And then they're going to try to administer something that's supposed to heal you, and you're going to get sicker and eventually die. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up my dream up, and the reason why I'm bringing Serco up is because the dream that I had 3 years ago and the events that are taking place today are becoming more synonymous as the days go on, and as long as we allow this to take place. First of all, in the United States, we have free will. So if we don't believe that we should be taking any sort of a vaccine that's administered by the federal government or state government or city government for that matter, we have every right without retaliation to reject any medication or vaccination that comes from the government, particularly now since it comes from the World Health Organization, which is being run by China. Okay? We have a right not to accept that. All right? And not only that, Serco is saying you will wear masks and you will be tested or you will lose your job. Okay, that is a matter of civil rights. All right? You employers, I don't care where you're from on the planet, if you have a business in the United States, then you have to operate under the Constitution of the United States. Just because you're a billionaire or you happen to be a prince or you're a king from somewhere that has an investment in U.S. businesses does not give you the right to remove the civil rights of American citizens that work for you. You are violating the law. You cannot impose your will upon your employees just because you own a business. And you employees that are putting up with it, and you're not bucking against it, and you're not quitting your job because of this, or you're not forming an employee association and protesting against it, or striking, or something to that effect. If you're not doing that, then what you're doing is you're allowing a potentially dangerous test package to be used on you that's going to make you sick. That's going to make you positive when you're not. And then if you're negative, you're going to be forced to wear a mask. And if you refuse to wear a mask because of your civil rights and Amendment 14, you're going to be told to leave the job. You're going to be fired, which is illegal. They would have no reason at that point to make you wear a mask or gloves. They have no reason at that point to make you lose your job just because you refuse the test. And then if you do take the test, if you're negative. If you're a healthy person, wearing a mask is a compromise to your immune system and it's dangerous for you. So like I said, the only reason that I'm mentioning this dream at this point is because what's happening among liberal businesses that have global investors in them, and these global investors are imposing their will upon the employees. The dream and what these other businesses are doing to the employees is becoming more synonymous until the employees are going to be locked in. They're not going to be able to come home. And they're going to be forced to take these medications, and they're going to be forced to eat food that's cooked there. Now, you've got to do something about this. If you have skills and abilities outside the office building, and you can do something besides answer a telephone behind a computer screen, then that is something that you need to be doing. Get out of the office building, quit your job, and go do some outside job. Men probably need to go to construction. Women at this point probably need to find good men in construction and stay home and take care of kids. Take care of the house. Do some gardening, something, whatever. But I'm telling you, one way or another, you need to get out of these office buildings. Get out of the system that they're trying to build to imprison humans, particularly those in the United States. Thank you.